It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Forget what they teach you in school. This is real life. Not Wall Street, but Main Street. A real show on what's really involved with starting and running a business, with all the ups and downs. Our guests will answer your questions and provide you with valuable information. Stay tuned and join in the conversation. Call us at 305-541-2350. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
Hey, hello everyone. How are you? I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. And once again, I'm really honored to be on the air with you and to be part of your lives for this hour. Tons of stuff going on this week. We're going to jump into it. We have our commercial cornerman, freshly back from vacation, Todd Cohen, and we're going to hone in and focus on due diligence in commercial real estate toward the end of the show. We're also going to have a very special guest all the way from our friendly neighbor in Canada, Kyle Kemper, and we're going to learn about Bitcoin, a kind of a fairly new thing, which I'm excited about. Should be fun to learn about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How are you, Wanda? Everything good?
I'm very good.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. A lot of great stuff going on. I'll tell you, this week the news has been crazy between the Iranian deal and the El Chapo. First of all, I love selling it.
El Chapo.
El Chapo. And the funny thing is I Googled what it meant. It means shorty. Or I think something like that. Short man. So I don't think anyone's calling El Chapo.
Need to get it out of little spaces.
To his face. Yeah. But what a fascinating story that is. I'm like addicted to it.
It's like prison escapes are like the thing these days.
It must be, I was thinking about it. I don't want to get too much into it because these guys sound like nuts.
Yeah.
They'll come to Miami and who knows what they'll do to me. Yeah, but, it's very elaborate. And you don't know what happened. They're crazy. They could have held the guards' families hostages or who knows.
Well, if you think about the two guys up in upstate New York who escaped and then you look at who this is, obviously I think he's got a better chance of escaping, although he doesn't necessarily have the seamstress in his corner. That you
would think in a maximum security prison, it's not so easy. But this guy has his own army. He has everything. And by the way, he has a very attractive wife.
Oh, there you go.
I think it's like his fourth or fifth wife. But I would definitely encourage everyone to Google the wife. Forget about him.
I wonder if he got conjugals down there.
I don't know. Okay, it's enough of that. Right. I want to applaud actually our President Obama because I usually not beat him up. I'm not I'm not in favor of a lot of his policies. But this week he brought to light a very, very important issue, which is criminal justice reform. And in fact, I think today is the first time a president is going to be at a prison talking about it. So I give him a tremendous amount of credit for that. So, I criticize him a lot, but he's really done a great job with that. I don't know about anyone else, but I was really touched by Caitlyn Jenner or Bruce Jenner's.
Caitlyn
Jenner's.
States, you're there.
I know.
Stay with it.
His speech at the ESPYs last night. I stood up and watched the whole thing, and I really had tears in my eyes. I don't understand a lot of it, I must confess. But, I just kept thinking about the pain that he or she must have been in for his whole life, and to come out of that in such a public way is really tremendous. It really is. And I give him a lot of credit. He's an inspiration to everyone, as well as a lot of people are. El Chapo's wife looked better than her though, but that's beside the point. Anyway, a lot of good stuff. A few weeks ago, I was infuriated here. I talked about a guy who worked for me for a couple days who I had to fire called Willie the Whiner, who just came to work, did nothing but nothing, complained, and he was in sales and looked for excuses to get out of work, and he lasted 2 weeks. Same thing happened to me this week. About 3 weeks ago, we hired an administrative assistant. She seemed good. She had all of the prerequisite experience. She was a middle-aged lady, nice and mature, except she didn't want to work. All she did was look to see how little work she could possibly do. That was her mission. Not to try to help, not to try to do anything good or positive or go above and beyond, but to look how little she could do. And I tell you, in the beginning, we knew we were going to get rid of her after 2-3 days, but I felt bad because she was dirt poor, and I wanted to give her a chance, and I talked to her once or twice. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore, and I just let her go. And I was mad because I know she needs a job desperately, and she just doesn't get that she's just lazy. And instead of saying, what can I do to help a company, she said, oh, what little work can I do? And I just see that all the time, and I'm just so infuriated by it, and it's a shame for these people. As I said before, we need to give more as a society, and if we work for someone or for our clients, we need to just constantly serve them and give. How can we help them? Not say, what can I get out of life? Everyone's always too much into me. I'm also amazed by a couple other things. You know, we put out a Craigslist ad for an administrative assistant, and we must have gotten 100 resumes. These resumes, I wonder if people think before they send them in, because half of the resumes were in Word, half of them had spelling mistakes, and I'm a bad speller, I'm dyslexic, I'm a mess. But you think they would look at them before they send them out, and you get the feeling they're just sending them out en masse. So I would advise anyone looking for a job, don't be so quick to push a button, but try to put a resume together that stands out. Put it in PDF. You know, follow up on it. Make like you want the job, not it's just you're just throwing you-know-what against the wall. So I'm just amazed at some people sometimes. I don't know why I'm amazed at this age. I should know it all. Another little bit of advice, it just irritates me. People come to work, and they don't know how to use critical programs. Todd's laughing at me because I'm going on a rampage. By the way, I've never asked my audience for anything. I need a psychiatrist or a psychologist or something like that.
You need a spiritual therapist.
I don't know what I need, but I'm always on a rampage, and I feel
probably a masseuse.
Something.
I don't know what I need.
Something that'll take you elsewhere.
This stuff.
You should rub some of those oils on
This
him.
stuff didn't bother me when I was younger.
He's got oils over there. Take a sip.
Let me tell you, Wanda knows I like the scents. In fact, you know what my favorite thing to do is? Takes Vicks Vapor Rub and put it in the room at night. I love it, but my wife hates it, and she puts some, I don't know, beautiful smelling. I wish I could describe it to everyone. It's so relaxing. If I had this
nice.
paper with me all the time, I'd be a different person. But people come to work. Let me go back to my rant.
Geez.
Then we'll go on to business because this is my psychiatry session. If anyone wants to treat me, I'll be a good test case because I'm all messed up and I'm in business and I got all kinds of stories. People come to work. They don't know how to use core programs. They don't know how to use Microsoft Word or Excel or LinkedIn, and they come there like buffoons and, how do I use it? What do I do? And I feel like saying, well, why don't you go home before you start the job? You know there's a critical computer program. Go on YouTube for an hour instead of watching the cartoons and learn how to use LinkedIn, learn how to use Excel, learn how to use Word. So when you come to work, you come prepared instead of you're a liability. People just are so lazy, and I don't even think they think about that. But
part of the onus also, Jack, is on the people hiring these people. And
it's me. I'm a bad hirer.
There are ways to test the competency of the hirees.
It's me. I know. What can I tell you?
Take a deep breath, will you?
Okay. Let's go to our motivational minute. By the way, this week we're going to have a great guy who I followed. I wish I would have seen him or met him in person. His name's Zig Zigar. He passed away a few years ago. He is absolutely unbelievable. So let's play his motivational minute, then put us in a good mood.
I think all of us at one time or another have been hurt because we've been treated in an unfair way. But one of the neat things we need to learn from that can be the greatest teaching lesson of our life, because when we understand that, of 300 world-class leaders, and I'm talking about Roosevelt and Churchill and Mahatma Gandhi, I'm talking about Helen Keller and Mother Teresa, people of that ilk, over 75% of them were either abused as children, or had some physical deformity, or they had some real difficulties in their life. But they understood it's not what happens to you, it's how you handle what happens to you. They responded, which is positive, instead of reacted, which is negative. In other words, when you get knocked flat on your back, just remember that you don't drown by falling in water. water. You only drown if you stay there. And you don't fail by getting knocked down. You only fail if you stay down.
Yeah.
And, of course, in my own life, I understand that the God of the mountaintop is also the God of the valley.
Yeah.
So we've always got that here. Optimism here is really a very important point as well. Look at life in an optimistic manner. The 1828 Noah Webster Dictionary never has the word pessimism in it, but it does have the word optimism in it. So don't go to the new stuff, go to the old stuff, read the definition of optimism in that dictionary, and you will see it's what you really expect to happen. It's been ordained, is what the dictionary said. Very exciting.
Zig Ziglar is the man, I'll tell you, and what he says is 100% right. We all have had problems in our lives, some of us more, some of us less, but it's really how we handle our problems. And we all have baggage, and we've all been knocked down on the chairs and gone through all kinds of terrible things, but it's how we handle them that sets us apart. And I would encourage you just to try to flip it around. I always like Leon, one of my favorite characters on Curb Your Enthusiasm, who always says, flip it around. And that's what you got to do. You got to flip around your situation. And look, the Kardashians are a perfect example of that. Who ever heard of Kim Kardashian before she got caught in a sexcapade or whatever? The same thing with Paris Hilton. You know what I mean? They flipped it around. Literally, they flipped around their career. I'm not, okay, I see everyone's face in here. Anyway, let's jump to Bitcoin. Wanda, do we have Kyle on the phone? Let's talk to Kyle and let's learn about Bitcoin. Let's learn about the future of I don't know if it's called currency, but, hey, Kyle, you there?
Hey, Jack, I'm here.
Good.
Having me on.
Thanks for having us. Everyone, this is Kyle Kemper. Kyle is head of the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada, and I believe it's fair to say he is an expert in Bitcoin. I've spoken to him a few times, and he's just opened up my whole eyes in it. So, Kyle, why don't we start out? We have to break for a commercial in a few minutes, but why don't we start out and just tell everyone what Bitcoin is so we all have a basis. And then if it's all right with you, I have just a bunch of questions, and we can just start flowing the conversation and all learn from it, because like everything, this is changing our whole society, and I have a feeling in 10 years it's going to make a tremendous impact on us all.
Oh, I totally agree with you there, Jack. So Bitcoin is a digital currency. It's created and held electronically. Think of it like a digital cash. With it, nobody controls Bitcoin. There's no company behind it, and there are no backdoors. Bitcoins aren't printed like dollars or euros. They're awarded to the people and businesses who process transactions on the network. There's a finite supply of Bitcoin set at 21 million, and the monetary policy for it is fixed. So one of the major problems that Bitcoin solves is that it's a digital asset that cannot be duplicated. If you think of something like maybe an MP3 or a movie or computer files, they can easily be copied. But with Bitcoin, you have a digital asset that cannot be duplicated. Many people believe, myself included, that Bitcoin will revolutionize money and finance the same way that the internet disrupted communications in general. So it's a very exciting time. It's still the early days. One of the illusions I draw is this is like, the internet of 1992. It's still pretty rugged, but the people who kind of understand it and see the opportunity there know that it's here to stay, and two, it's going to have incredible impact on basically all parts of society.
I got it. And it's a worldwide currency, so it doesn't matter. There's no conversion rates, or in other words, if I get a Bitcoin here and I happen to be on Australia or China or wherever I'm at, I could use it there, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Bitcoin knows no borders, no languages, no politics, no sexes, no religion, none of that. Okay. Bitcoin is just mass. It's a global digital currency.
Wait, before we start talking, he ended on the word, it doesn't know sexes. So I got to break with that. Let's take a commercial break, Kyle. I got to always end with something a little bit risque. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Stick with us, Kyle.
Turn that dial. We'll be right back.
Turn it around.
Are you tired of dealing with unreliable banks and brokers who charge upfront fees and never deliver on their promises? You don't have to. Gelt Financial Corporation has been in business since 1989 and offers a stated income loan program for non-owner occupied residential and commercial real estate investors. No tax returns required. What are you waiting for? Call Gelt Financial right now at 561-221-0900. Again, that's 561-221-0900.
Did you invest in a non-liquid real estate partnership? Do you want and need liquidity? There's finally an answer. Quick Liquidity is a direct buyer of real estate minority interest and tenants in common investments across the country. To find out if we would buy your non-liquid investment, call us at 561-221-0881 or visit us at quickliquidity.com. That's quickliquidity.com.
Welcome back to It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Call us at 305-541-2350. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sticking with us. Welcome back. Kyle, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Jack.
Okay, good. So Bitcoin, I think you said before there was a flat number of them, and I forget the number you said that's out there. Did I hear correct?
Yeah, so the total supply is finite, and it's ultimately going to be 21 million Bitcoin. And right now, about 14 million thereabouts have been issued.
Like, who sets that? Like, who came up with that 21 million? Was it? Why isn't it 22 million? Or is there like a Bitcoin Alliance or the IMF, or who sets that out of curiosity?
So it was set by the creator. In the very beginning, an individual or group identified themselves as an anonymous person called Satoshi Nakamoto, and they outlined the kind of the rules of the currency. And one of them was that the total supply is fixed at 21 million, but it's divisible. It's divisible to 8 decimal places below that, and the smallest unit is called a Satoshi. So even if Bitcoin goes to, say, $1 million a coin, you'll still be able to buy a cup of coffee with it.
Gotcha. And what changes? Does the price of that Bitcoin change on a daily basis?
Yes. So, I mean, the Bitcoin, when you have a Bitcoin, you have a Bitcoin. That doesn't change. But it's the amount it's worth against any other currency changes, just the way gold changes, just the way currencies change against each other. And
people are speculating or trading them, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. It's a trading network that's on 24/7. There's no holidays. There's no opening bells or closing bells.
There was an exchange. This is Todd, by the way. There was an exchange that failed, or there was fraud, or something happened. I guess like a year ago. What was that all about?
Yeah. So, in order to buy and sell Bitcoin, you need to use kind of companies, and one of them was an exchange called MT Gox, based out of Japan, and they're like a bank. They're kind of like a bank, and you trusted them to hold your Bitcoins, and they were a company, and they went under. They went bankrupt, and they lost a bunch of people's money. So that wasn't a problem with Bitcoin. That was a problem with that company. Just in the same way, like if a bank engages in bad practices, or if a bank gets hacked, or the funds stolen, it's not the currency's fault. It's the bank's fault.
Right, but I mean, does Bitcoin get protected by like an FDIC kind of thing, like dollars would if the bank?
No, there's no. Again, that would be banks. FDIC is insuring the bank's funds. With an exchange, yes, they can go towards. There are a number of exchanges, and people will hold your Bitcoins for you, and they'll provide insurance, so they'll guarantee it. So there are ways to hold it, but imagine if you had cash. Imagine if you're just holding cash yourself, like as with Bitcoin, and if you lose your cash, or if it's stored in your house and it burns down, there's no insurance on that cash specifically.
So, but look, I don't want to. I would imagine as Bitcoin evolves, there'll be some sort of secure network or some type of insurance. So, because right now, I suspect, I don't want to say it's the infancy of it, and they have to work their way through that. A couple more of them will fail, and there'll be a revolution to.
Oh yeah, and we've learned great lessons from what happened in Mt. Gox.
It's
there were people are implementing new processes and procedures to make sure it never happens again like that way.
So
similarly, like just the law, if someone takes off with a bunch of people's money, they should go to jail.
So why would a company or a person, because a lot of companies are going to it now, especially with the Greece situation. In fact, I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal the other day that NASDAQ is starting to experiment with it. So what's the advantage to an individual or a company to using Bitcoin as opposed to currency or something of that nature?
Yeah, great question. So, NASDAQ is looking at the technology behind it to kind of record transactions for all eternity. But other companies like, Dell and Microsoft and Overstock and Tiger Direct and Newegg, Expedia, and smaller restaurants and cafes and retailers are accepting it because it's got all sorts of values. For one thing, it's an instant transaction. So when you send money, you get the money, near instantly. Secondly, the transaction can't be reversed. So like with credit cards, there's chargebacks. So, you can think you have the money, and then after the fact, someone can take it away. With Bitcoin, when you send the money, you can't. There's nothing to reverse the transaction. The opposite party would have to actually send it back to you. All the transactions get recorded. Is another thing. So there's a proof of all transactions. It's incredibly efficient. This is one of the big things. Is the fees for it, whereas Visa and MasterCard are charging points on the transactions, a Bitcoin transaction costs 4 cents thereabouts to process, whether it's $1 or $1 million. It costs you 4 cents. So that's incredibly efficient. So there's huge cost savings there. And then lastly, it's just private. It's a lot of people buy things online. They use their credit cards, and they put their credit card information. They put all their personal information and their shipping information. And if that retailer's database gets hacked or something, all of a sudden you have all of your personal information, and you are at risk of identity theft or social engineering. So with Bitcoin, you have the opportunity to separate personal information from the financial transaction, which is very important.
So if you hold a Bitcoin, what's the price of Bitcoin today, just for an example?
So the price of Bitcoin right now in U.S. dollars is about $277.
So if I would hold a Bitcoin and it's worth $277, I'm subject to the market fluctuations, correct? Sort of like gold or silver.
Yes, or U.S. dollar or Canadian dollar.
Yeah. I understand. But in other words, if I have dollars and put them in the bank, I get interest on it. If I have a Bitcoin, it could that $277 could be higher, or it could be lower.
Correct.
Gotcha. So you have to just keep that in mind. Is it more used by individuals or by companies?
I would say it's more used by individuals. Right now, there's definitely a lot of kind of speculators and traders in it, but there's also people who are just looking for alternatives. I think with the financial crises that have taken place, and you mentioned Greece. Greece is an excellent example of why individuals may want to secure some of their holdings in Bitcoin, because with current situation in Greece, people don't actually have access to their bank accounts. But with Bitcoin, if you are in control of your Bitcoin accounts, nobody can take them from you or apportion taxes off them. So there's clear advantage to it. With Bitcoin, you get to become your own bank.
Gotcha.
Is everybody ready for that? I don't think so, but I think the system will evolve, and in the near future, we will have Bitcoin banks, and we'll have the existing banks offering, the way they allow you to hold gold in your Wells Fargo account. You could also hold some Bitcoin.
Can you own a portion of a Bitcoin?
Absolutely. So each Bitcoin is divisible to 8 decimal places. So you can hold there's no change in Bitcoin. The days of operating in full integers of Bitcoin, like 1 Bitcoin or 2 Bitcoin, we don't need to think about that. And this is something that's been kind of challenging the whole industry, is because it's worth 277, and people are like, well, it's too expensive for me to buy a Bitcoin. So we're actually kind of the community is kind of moving towards using the denomination of bits, which is there's 1 million bits in a Bitcoin. So, like, sending someone, let's say this cup of coffee costs, 5,000 bits. It sounds like a lot more than just, 0.003 Bitcoin. And it also is a little bit more easy to understand that way.
So in my idiot language, you can move it to pennies.
You can move it to much smaller than pennies, but yes.
I got you. Can't buy anything with it, but I understand. Got you. I understand.
The penny's more expensive than the value it holds.
I got you. Who sets the price? I guess it's the market sets the price of that $277, or how's that set on a daily basis or hourly basis, or how's that set?
It's set on a continuous basis of the market, of buyers meeting sellers, of people who are looking to buy it, meeting with people who are looking to sell it, and there's the equilibrium price.
So it's the free market.
Very pure market. It's a very pure market.
The market right now is valued at approximately $6 billion or thereabouts. What happens?
Yeah, thereabouts.
What happens if it gets so popular that there are more transactions going on with Bitcoin than that can hold? Then
so the network, it's based on code. So as problems kind of present themselves, solutions will also be developed. And there's been a lot of stress testing going on the network. But I think, to just pull it back a second, if, say, there's $6 billion and say all of a sudden $1 billion worth of buy-side pressure comes onto the market, well, there just simply, isn't enough at $277 to buy that. So the price would very quickly start running up. And I think...
Right.
It's just a matter of buy me sell, and when you have a fixed supply and a variable demand, as demand increases, the price is going to increase, and that's why, based on the incredible utility of the currency, as more and more people become aware of how disruptful and impactful this programmable money has on all sections of society, there'll be a rush towards it, which should lead to a much higher Bitcoin price.
what's the risk for hacking? I mean, if the U.S. government can be hacked like it was recently, I mean, what kind of risk is there that Bitcoin can be hacked?
Great question. So the Bitcoin protocol itself is based on absolute top grade cryptography. Now it has never been hacked, and it quite likely will never be hacked. But the companies that operate on top of it, the exchange, like they were talking about Mt. Gox in Japan, they got hacked. Exchanges get hacked all the time, and they have the Bitcoin stolen. It's much easier for people to target the companies that operate and try and steal keys for Bitcoin, as opposed to trying to hack Bitcoin itself. So that's where the real risk is in the companies being compromised and losing Bitcoins that they're holding on behalf of other people.
Is it something that's more of because it sounds fun. I'm going to ask you soon, how does an individual get set up with this, and how does a merchant get set up with this? But is it something, and I'll ask you this question, then we have to break for a commercial, but answer this question if you would. Is it something that's more like a fad thing, or something that's like a serious business thing at this point? And I realize it sounds like it's going to evolve greatly in time, but at this point, is it more of just a cool thing to do? I'm paying in Bitcoin? Sounds like a great pickup line. And by the way,
no, I think it's very serious. I think in the very beginning it was kind of fun, but ultimately what it's challenging is the central banking system that has brought us, to our knees.
I'm actually going to ask you about that when we get back, how the government feels. We need to take a hard traffic break. Stick with us, Kyle, and stick with us, all the great people listening. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Drive safe, everybody.
Nothing lascivious to lead us to our break this time?
I don't know, nothing. I got to keep it clean. If not, my wife's going to yell at me.
All right.
Don't turn that dial. We will be right back.
Are you tired of dealing with invasive and unreliable banks or brokers who charge large amounts of upfront fees and never deliver on their promises? Gelt Financial Corporation, in business since 1989, offers a stated income mortgage loan for non-owner occupied residential and commercial real estate investors for purchases, refinances, and yes, cash out refinances. Call Gelt Financial at 561-221-0900. That's 561-221-0900. Our stated income loan program does not require tax returns. Due to the light documentation, we can offer quick closings and approvals usually within 1 day. This program is a 30-year term with no balloon payment, with loans amounts from $100,000 all the way up to $5 million. Call Gelt at 561-221-0900 or visit us at geltfinancial.com.
South Florida's only business radio station.
Part of the Wall Street Business Network.
880 AM, The Biz. Welcome back to It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Call us at 305-541-2350. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. Kyle, we have so many more questions. Todd and I were just rambling them off during the break. So if it's all right, can I just do the same to you and you can...
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so how would an individual or a business get set up? Let's say I wanted to buy Bitcoin, buy whether it be one Bitcoin or 5 of them or whatever it is. How do I get set up with it?
The best way is probably a site called circle.com, CICIR, circle.com, or coinbase.com. Those are two good, reliable solutions for U.S. citizens to buy Bitcoin.
So you go online, and I guess you give them a Visa or MasterCard, and you could buy whatever you want in Bitcoin.
Yeah, or, I mean, really, Visa and MasterCard are bad choices for that because there's high fees attached to them, but a lot of, like, ACH transfer, bank transfer. Okay,
so somehow I get the money. Gotcha.
Yeah, you just got to send them the money, and then you say, buy Bitcoin, and then and they'll also, like, you know, they have insurance for their sites too, so you can feel confident in keeping the Bitcoin with them as well.
What about
that's good for personal? Now, if you're a business that you want to accept it, there's a site called Coinbase has merchant solutions as well, and there's another one called BitPay, BITPAY, and they allow you to on your website or in person, the checkout terminal, be able to accept Bitcoin. Even if you don't believe in Bitcoin or want to hold it, you can at least allow your people to pay you in Bitcoin. So if I go into a store and they accept Bitcoin using BitPay, they'll show me a code. I'll send them some money. I'll send them the Bitcoin, and then BitPay will convert that to U.S. dollars and will put that directly into their bank account, and at zero fees. I think up to the first $1 million or something like that. So, it's a no-brainer. And considering, oftentimes retailers are totally willing to pay like lots of points just to get the money. So it's incredibly efficient.
Plus, I would imagine it's like a hip, cool thing to say,
I
yeah. accept Bitcoin.
Huge marketing. You can tell people, I like telling people, like, you want to be ahead of the curve than behind it, right? So you can go to there's a big global Bitcoin community, and we love anybody who starts accepting it, and we'll choose their services most of the time over somebody who's not into it. So,
it's like Bitcoin loyalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. Now, do you use, I know you do because we talked about it, but tell me how you use Bitcoin in your daily lives, your life.
Oh, goodness. I use it in all sorts of ways. So, I mean, one of my favorite restaurants, I could go in and use it there. Even amongst my friends, like there's this one solution called Change Tip, and it's incredible. It's enabling something called social payments. So it allows you to send money over Twitter, over Facebook, over Reddit, or over email and text message. So, like, I went on a canoe trip the other week, and I owed my buddy $100. So I sent him a text message with a link, and he clicked that, and it automatically put $100 from my account into his account instantly with no fee. And, like, that is mind-blowing. Or, like, on the radio, for example, like, you could give away small amounts of money over Twitter to people for following or for interacting with your brand. incredible things. Like, I tipped the waitress the other night at the bar with using change tip in a text message.
So what do you do? I think you told me that the other night, and I thought that was the best pickup line in the world. So what do you say to this cute little waitress or cute waitress? You say, "Oh, I want to tip you. What's your phone number? And I'll send you a text with the tip."
Yeah, absolutely. And because, one of the restaurants accepts Bitcoin, there's another one that doesn't. And I was like, does anybody ever ask you for Bitcoin? She's like, no, well, not really. Sometimes. I was like, well, I can send you some Bitcoin if you want. She's like, oh, that'd be great, because for servers, for one thing, they have a really tough time. They just hold on to tons of cash and very disposable, so they're terrible savers. But by holding a little bit of Bitcoin, it's a way and it's good. So she was like, yeah, totally. So I got her phone number. I went to Change Tip, said send money via text message. Said how much? $10. It created me a little link. Copied that, put it in a text message, sent it to her. She clicks it, logs in with Facebook. Now she has a Bitcoin account that is accessible using her Facebook.
So look,
and she now has it.
If anything else, every single guy should get Bitcoin, because that sounds like a great way to pick up girls.
You have opened Pandora's box here with Jack.
I think that's a great thing.
We are going down a slippery slope. Anyway, you mentioned that Bitcoin's private. How easily is it for the IRS, for instance, to track what's going on in the world that you just spoke about, or in general?
In what way would you mean the IRS track? First of all, every transaction that happens on the network is public. It's all registered on what's called the blockchain, which is and imagine it's a big bulletin board that has every single transaction as they're happening recorded. Now, the thing is, it's not Kyle sent Jack $10. It's this long cryptographic key sent, or address sent this long address, $10.
Look, the government over the past 30 years has really cracked down on the use of cash. They track everything through debit cards and, Visa, credit cards. So I would imagine that sooner or later they're going to really crack down on Bitcoin. So they want their tax dollars, and they want to know how we're spending our money. So I would think that they're going to start to do that sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So with a solution like BitPay, I mean, they're all recorded and you're there. So it'd actually be very easy for a business to be like, yes, we received all of this money, and of course we charged our sales tax on this, and here you go. Here's your portion. At the end of the day, it's still on the retailer or the merchant to charge for the taxes. Even in a cash society, you're able to avoid it by paying cash if the merchant is willing to. But again, that's going against the rules. Now, one of the things that this will do is it will force some innovation within the tax system as well. Because it's not going to be totally transparent. And you can be very private, but at the same time, you can also be very public with Bitcoin. So, while they want to watch all our spending, we can also watch all of their spending with this. So it's talk about flipping the equation for a second. If you have the government starting to use Bitcoin, literally, we can know every single transaction they're doing. And because they're the government, they're public office, and they're there to represent us, they should be recording all of their transactions, and we should be able to, if we want to, see where the money goes.
Good luck with getting information from the government. But
what about for vices around the world? I mean, is this a good way for people who are gambling or buying or selling drugs or prostitution or that kind of thing? Is this a good way to hide that or no?
It's not a good way to hide it. I mean, it's a digital form of cash. So just like cash is used for gambling and prostitution and drugs right now, it's the number one use for all of those kind of things. Now, Bitcoin, it can be used as well for that. Bitcoin is money.
So
money
you pay your prostitute.
For righteous things, or it can be used for vicious things.
So you pay your prostitute in Bitcoin.
You can pay. There are prostitutes that no doubt accept Bitcoin.
That would be cool. Todd, first of all, you're assuming, you say vice. You're assuming that prostitution's a vice.
Well, I don't know. I know places like up in New York and strip clubs have things like funny money.
What's funny money?
This seems like real money, and I'm just curious.
This seems like a slippery slope.
Yeah, it is.
All right, maybe we should just.
You want to real quick? We got it.
Why?
I'll tell you a funny story. The other day, I came home from work. I came home a little early. Whatever. I didn't feel good. I see this guy running down the street naked. So I roll down my window. How come you're running down the street naked? He goes, because I heard you came home early from work. It's not my joke. It didn't happen. It's a Rodney Dangerfield joke. I heard it last night.
I miss Rodney.
He's great. Anyway, Kyle, we got to take a break soon. What did we miss? And I really appreciate your time. This is just such a cutting edge industry. What did we miss? What didn't I ask you that you would like to say to the listeners?
I just would like to encourage everybody to do more research. Don't immediately go to Circle and put all your investments in it. Educate yourself. It's a bit of it's a rabbit hole. You can keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, and your eyes will get wider and wider and wider. And if you're like me or like most of the people in this community, in the very beginning, you'll be incredibly skeptical of it. It's complicated, but at the same time, if you really look into what money is and how it's issued and where it came from, and the notion of tokens, Bitcoin is no different, except it's much more pure. It's, as opposed to trusting in money that's based on men. How about we trust money that's based on math? That's what I think.
Kyle, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. Thank you very, very much. I want to have you back because it's a lot of great information.
And thank you very much, Jack. And one last thing. To whoever's listening right now, if you go to tiny.cc/880thebiz, the first 10 people to go to that will get, I think, $5 for the Bitcoin just to get you started. I set up that link. So, I'm giving away some Bitcoin too. And if you follow me on Kyle Kemper and say, send me some Bitcoin.
You're assuming that we have that many listeners, Kyle.
We have plenty of listeners.
What was that again?
I'm going to that address as soon as I'm done.
Totally.
You know what? I want to open up a Bitcoin account because it sounds interesting.
You never know.
Hey, it's a diversified asset class too. Like the rest of the world can go to bad place. And Bitcoin is protected from that, and if anything, it may go the other way.
I hear you.
It's smart to own a little bit. You're taking a risk by not owning any.
Well,
the address again.
Yeah, what's the address again?
The address again is tiny.cc, so TINY.cc/880thebiz.
Okay, I'm going to go to it this afternoon or when I get done, and you know why? Because in case I want to tip a cute waitress. My wife will kill me, but
hey, you got $5 of the Bitcoin.
I'm excited.
Like 16.
Who's 16?
You're like a 16-year-old in there.
I'm very immature. I can't help it. My wife knows it though. She knows it. Kyle,
Kyle,
thank you very much. You're the best. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm going to go to that web address tonight. So thank you very much for your
guys,
time.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @Kyle Kemper. I'm happy to address any questions or do this again anytime you want. Take care.
I appreciate it, Kyle. I don't know about what you guys think, but I think it's pretty interesting, and it's just at the beginning stages of it. Imagine in 5 or 10 years, and I'm sure all these things, like Todd brought up in terms of security and government intervention, will be tightened up and give people more protection as time goes on. Anyway, Todd, you ready to talk some commercial real estate?
I am always ready.
I'll tell you, I want to focus this week on commercial due diligence, and I'll tell you why. I see so many people get in trouble. They buy commercial property. They don't do the correct due diligence, and they just get their head handed to them. I got a call, and I'll tell you a quick story, and this is kind of why I want to talk about it. I get a call the other day from a potential client. She's in her mid-60s. Her husband passed away, left her some money. She bought a industrial property. She put down $2.5 million. She got a CMBS loan on it. There's a tenant in there. She thought they were paying perfect. It's a pretty big rent. The rent's, I think, $20,000-$30,000 a month. And she found out the tenant hadn't paid rent for 6 months.
Wow.
I'll fast forward. The property's now in foreclosure, and she's in deep doo-doo for it.
I imagine so.
And when I started to get into it, I realized that nobody did the proper due diligence.
Including the lender, obviously.
The lender is a national CMBS lender. You think the lender would have done the right due diligence. The lender didn't do it. The lawyer didn't do it. Everyone just assumed that it's doing it. Everyone's walking away now. So I really am so frustrated, and I see this all the time. So, Todd, I want to focus on due diligence, and I know this is really one of your expertise and one of the services you provide.
It is.
But it seems a couple. I broke due diligence down into a few things, and then let's talk about it. But a couple general rules I have, and you may disagree, and it could be respectfully disagree. My first rule is don't depend on your professionals to do it. And I believe this. If you're the buyer and you're investing your money and you're signing on the hook, you need professionals who know what they're doing, but you have to involve yourself in it. If not, if someone makes a mistake, the professionals all get paid at closing. They're motivated by closing. As soon as closing's over, not that they don't care, but some of them don't care. So you need to really wrap your hand around it. And if you don't have the time to wrap your hands and head around it, you shouldn't do it. The second thing is, again, be involved. Well, that's sort of the same thing. Just be involved in general. I think it's critical. But, Todd, what kind of due diligence do you recommend when you're buying a commercial property?
I mean, there are a number of things, but, it all starts with the leases and the income. 99% of the time, what we are selling is income. We're selling yield. And so our buyers need to validate that income or yield is actually coming in. And there are ways that we do that ahead of time. We get out ahead of it, for both the seller and the buyer in a transaction to prevent a situation just like your potential client experienced. But, I mean, we get down to the nitty-gritty. We get the leases. It's a must. You abstract the leases yourself. You compare the leases to the rent roll if there are multiple tenants and make sure everything is as it's purported to be. And then you get deposits or bank statements, and you get them for as long a period of time as you can. What you're looking for there is, that the monthly income is actually going into the bank and being received each month, that it's not being paid late, and that there aren't any trends of non-payment. And by trends, I mean you're looking for something where it's like more than 1 month at a time, 2 months, 3 months, up to 6 months, like you mentioned, that there had been non-payment. There are various forms of income that you get, even from one tenant. So you need to verify that you're getting payment for everything that the tenant is on the hook for. So not just their base rent, but also their operating expenses or their share thereof, which, is their payment of, whatever their pro rata share of taxes, janitorial, management fees, electricity, and whatever else those tenants are responsible for. And then anything else that a tenant is supposed to be paying. Maybe they pay for their parking spaces. Maybe they pay for, separate,
So you have to do a full audit on the file.
Correct.
First of all, I want to make this offer to everyone. A few years ago, we came up internally a due diligence checklist and items needed by the seller. As well, I wrote an article on due diligence, and I wrote another article called Hidden Treasures in Commercial Deals. If anyone sends me an email at jackmiller@Gelt Financial, I'll be more than glad to send it to them. But what this list is literally a 23-point list of things you should check on. And it breaks down into really 3 areas. One is outside reports, and an outside report would be an environmental, a title, building inspection. You don't want to buy a building and have a problem with the roof or something after. Zoning reports. I was involved with a property I've been involved with plenty of properties that aren't zoned properly. Sometimes there's 2 tenants in there and it's only zoned for 1 tenant. So there's what I call the outside reports, breaks down into one group. The second part is the internal stuff that the landlord gives you. That would be the stuff Todd's talking about: current leases, tax returns, CAM audits, things like that.
Service contracts.
All that stuff.
I mean, everything. You need to look at a lot of stuff. Service contracts are big, by the way. Sometimes if you're buying a property that's been in existence for, let's say 10 years or more, they could have hired a company to do elevators or window cleaning or janitorial, and every year that company could charge maybe, CPI increase over last time. And by the time you come around to buying this, that service company might be, 10 or 20% above market rate
all
on what they're charging.
All that stuff. You have to check out every detail, and don't assume that the seller, no matter how big they are, is telling you the truth. In fact, whatever. I know someone who was working on a very big deal that closed a couple weeks ago. It was like a $23 or $26 million deal. They were buying a property from one of the biggest REITs in the country, and the REIT did not disclose some certain information that came out through due diligence, which wound up costing about $1 million.
Wow.
Had to do some leaks and things like that. So don't assume that the seller is going to give you all the information. So the first area, again, is things outside reports. The second area is things you get from the owner, and you have to verify everything. And the third area is what I call snooping around. Go to the property. I would go in, if it's a retail, talk to the tenant, see how the tenant's doing, because the owner's not going to tell you that the tenant's struggling and he may be out of there. So by kind of snooping around, talking to neighbors, you can learn a lot. And there's, again, big list of stuff that you can come up with to go over that. But I would spend a ton of time on due diligence. And too often, frankly, everyone's putting pressure on you to close, and they're trying to get you to waive the due diligence items instead of focusing on the due diligence items.
That's right.
So what else, Todd? What else do you guys do in due diligence?
Well, one of the things that we do is we make sure that we get all of the things that you just mentioned from our clients, the sellers, up front. We have them so that, when we go to market, we already understand the property. We make sure and already validate that the income is as the seller is purporting it when we go out to market. And we make sure that we have the due diligence items in hand already so that when buyers ask for certain things, we are ready either to answer questions or to provide the information once we go under contract immediately, because, usually the due diligence period begins as soon as the effective date of a contract. So, your clock is ticking. Let's say you have 21 days or 30 days, which is standard, to do something, that your clock is ticking as soon as the contract is signed. So we make sure that people get it on day one, because if you don't get it on day one, then there's going to be delays in moving a deal forward.
There's also in due diligence, remember, you're not only looking for bad stuff, you're certainly looking for bad stuff, but sometimes good stuff comes out of it. In a ton of deals that we see, for example, the common area maintenance, the landlord is not collecting the full amount, and they're leaving a lot of money off the table. And
we see it all the time. People aren't collecting the CAM payments, which is the common area maintenance. People aren't collecting for increases in lease payments dating back last year, dating back 10 years sometimes. I mean, sometimes landlords just on a handshake agreement with tenants don't raise the rent like they could in a lease because, times were hard or whatever, and then they never get around to doing it. But a new owner could come in and get those
I agree.
tenants to
Todd,
pay.
we got to take a commercial. I'll be back in a minute. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The show's over. And we have 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes. A couple more things on due diligence. I'll rush through them. A couple other things. One is I learned a valuable lesson. Make sure you don't take the size for granted. If the lease says a property is, I'm making up a number, 5,000 square feet, don't take that for granted, because quite often it's not 5,000 square feet. So it could be higher. It could be lower. You could measure it. But you have to really nail it down to that level of
scrutiny.
If not, you're going to be in trouble. And I see this all the time in my financial restructuring practice. So I would encourage everyone to spend a lot of time, double check everything in your due diligence. Don't trust anybody. So with that, I want to thank everyone. Wanda, I'm sorry we didn't get to pal around and talk to you today. I really have a lot to talk. I want to talk about Donald Trump next week.
That's fine.
Nice.
Todd,
I've missed you guys the last couple of weeks. It's good to be back in studio. Again, my name's Todd Cohen. If you need to call me for any commercial real estate questions or needs, 786-522-7021. Again, 786-522-7021. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, Jack.
Todd, my pleasure. My lovely wife, Judy, you didn't text me during the show and tell me I'm doing anything wrong, but you texted me before and told me you love me, so that's what matters. Okay, everyone. Thank you and have a great day.
3 o'clock on 880 The Biz. If you want to send in your questions, comments, or ideas for shows, please email Jack Miller at geltfinancial.com. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.